Hey everybody, welcome to Back Porch Cooking and Reminiscing. I'm Roger and glad to have y'all here with us today. So this recipe right here is one of those recipes that you knew money had gotten pretty tight if this was for supper. What we're cooking today is one of those suppers that people used to make back long time ago when the money ran out before the wheat did. Just potatoes, onions, some celery, and a few other things that hopefully you had in your pantry. But I'm telling y'all, nothing tastes like home more than a big pot of my grandma's homemade potato soup. And I'm going to show y'all how she made it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take our potatoes. And now I've already peeled these potatoes and put them in some water so they wouldn't turn because I did this a little while ago. But the next thing we're going to do is we're going to dice up our potatoes. So I'm going to just kind of show you how we do diced potatoes, and using my Blue Diamond knife here, and it's a really good knife. I enjoy using it. It fits my hand really well and it feels good. So we're going to use it and we're going to get to dicing these potatoes. So we're just going to cut them into chunks like this. And now it just depends on how thick you like your potatoes. You can cut them thin or you can cut them thick. And I can see this potato has a bad spot in it. So we want to take that bad spot out. And then we're just going to take them and cut them down the center and then just dice them up. And again, you cut them as big or small as you like them. I'm gonna get that little bad spot out of there. All right, and then we're just gonna dice them up here. Take that little bad spot out. And that's a great thing about doing these potatoes for potato soup is it doesn't matter how you cut your potatoes. They can be all different sizes. It's fine. All right, just want y'all to see how we're going to dice them up, and I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these diced up, and then we'll come back with our next part of our recipe. So I got our potatoes all cubed up and ready to go. Got them soaking in some fresh water. Now I used these were kind of small potatoes, and I used I think about 11 or 12 of them. But if you're using bigger potatoes, you may only have to have 6, 7. Just it depends on your size of your potatoes. So now we want to get our onions ready. So we're going to chop our onions here. And we're just cutting those into dice pieces. Nothing fancy with it. And yeah, I don't cut the way the chefs do, so y'all just have to bear with me here. All right, so we're going to do one whole onion, so we got another half to go, and then we're going to chop us up some celery. So we got our onions all diced up now, and I'm going to be cooking this in our Lodge cast iron Dutch oven today. So first thing we're going to do with this is we're going to scrape our onions off into this Dutch oven. And then we're going to be dicing up some celery to go in there with it. So we got our onions in there, and now we're going to dice some celery. So now we're going to cut us up that celery. And one of the things that some of you probably know, some may not know, don't trim your leaves off your celery. Use that in your mix because the leaves have got a ton of flavor in them. So we don't want to get rid of those. Now, something I do like to do is to just take my celery and kind of cut it down the center, and that way it's not in quite as big chunks. Maybe that one's a little big, so we may go ahead and cut it twice. All right, and then we just start dicing. And it's up to you how thick you want to leave your celery, if you want it thin or if you want it in good sized chunks. It's just totally up to you how you want it. You know, when I started doing those potatoes, I got thinking about that. My grandmother used to have a old root cellar, and it was actually, you got to it from inside the house, and you had to go down these steps that seemed like they were just straight down steep, and you'd have to go down there, and that's where she kept her potatoes. They had a old bed box springs down there, and of course, again, some of you younger folks, you think about the box springs that we have today, but back in the day, it was just a square of springs, and they would put their potatoes down in the root cellar and put it on those old springs, and that's how they kept their potatoes back in the day. So Grandma had that down in the root cellar, and always scared me to death to have to go down there because it was dark and it was musty and damp, and I just really didn't care for going down there, or at least that's how I remember it anyway. All right, now we're gonna get to these leaves, so we're just gonna cut those up just like that. But I thought I'd share that little piece of information with you because, again, a lot of our younger folks, they may not have a clue what a root cellar would have been like from back in the day. So, and now Grandma kept her canned goods down there. You know what she would actually can in the pressure cooker or in her water bath canner, and she kept dried beans down there, dried peppers, just anything that they wanted to try to keep after the gardens were over and done with. Then they would just put it in the root cellar. And truth known, Grandpa probably kept his wine down there too. I'm not real sure about that part. I don't remember it, but I know he was definitely a wine maker. All right, so we got our celery chopped up, and if you see a few that may look like they might be too big, just go back in there and give them another chop. It'll be all right. But now we are going to saute these onions and peppers, and that's just how Grandma always did it, and so that's how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to put these in there, and then I'll show you what we're going to saute in. So we got our celery and our onions in our pot here. And next thing we're going to do is we're going to put 2 tablespoons of butter in there. And then we're going to add a tablespoon of bacon grease. Y'all been wanting to see me use bacon grease, so I'm using bacon grease. All right, so we keep our bacon grease in that little kind of a miniature Dutch oven looking thing. And so we got us 2 tablespoons of butter, 1 tablespoon of bacon grease. And now we're just going to turn that on and let all that saute together. And we're going to do it on about a medium high heat. And so we'll be back once we get our onions and celery sauteed. So we got our celery and our onions. They're pretty much translucent now. And I'll tell y'all, that bacon grease and butter and these onions and celery smells awesome. But something I remembered while I was doing this was that my grandma didn't call it sautéing her onions and her celery. She called it sweating them. So if y'all ever heard of sweating your onions and your celery or your onions and your peppers, that's what Grandma did. All right, so our next thing that we're going to do is we've got 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. And we're going to just mix this in here with this. I've turned the heat down just a little bit, but we're just going to mix that all around in there. And now what that's going to do is that it's going to be what thickens our soup when that we get everything put together and start cooking it. So we just want to let that cook for just a few minutes, just to let the floury taste cook out of it. And of course, it's going to dry up most of your liquid that you had in there. So it won't hurt if you want to add just a little bit of water to that, just to keep everything cooking nice and not starting to brown. So I'm going to put just a little bit of water in there with that. And then we're just going to stir it around and let that flour cook, like I say, just a few minutes on the flour. And then we're going to start adding our potatoes in. And now, my mother, she didn't use flour. She would use a cornstarch slurry at the end to thicken it up. And now, another little trick that we have done when we made potato soup is to, at the end, add some instant potato flakes into it to make it a little thick. So a couple of different ways you can do this, but again, this is Grandma's recipe, so I'm trying to make it just exactly how she made it when I was a kid. All right, I think we're ready to add our potatoes into it. I got our potatoes put in there, and now after we put the potatoes in, what you want to do next is you want to put enough water in there just to cover the tops of the potatoes. Now, something that Grandma would do if she had it, and now a lot of times she didn't have it, but if she had it, she would use some chicken broth or chicken stock to go in there. So I saved a little bit of room, and I'm going to put in a little bit of chicken stock to go in with that because I think that will make it just awesome. All right, so we get that, rinse that out just a touch. All right, and now we got our chicken stock in there, and that covers our potatoes. So we're just going to give that a good stir. And now we're just going to let this cook until our potatoes get tender. And don't really know for sure how long that'll be, but we'll let you know when we get it done. So that's all we're doing at this point. So we'll be back. Our potato soup is boiling now, looking good, smelling good. So let's get us some cornbread ready because potato soup, you gotta have cornbread. So first thing I'm gonna do is get our oven turned on, preheating to 375 degrees. Now, a lot of you like to do cornbread at higher temperatures, and that's fine if you want to do it at a higher temperature. It's just always been the temperature that I cooked at. So we got us 2 cups of our White Lily self-rising cornmeal mix. And to that, we're going to add 1/3 cup of milk and 1 egg and a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. Now, again, I know what y'all say about the vegetable oil, so y'all do it however you want to do it, but this is the way that I've always done it. All right, so we're going to put all that in there. And if y'all remember from my cornbread recipe, I always put just a little pinch of salt in it. Not a lot, just a little. And now I've also got over here, I've got my cast iron skillet, and I've rubbed it down on the bottom and the outside with lard. and I've got just a little spoonful of bacon grease in there. So we're going to go ahead and put that in the oven and let it be heating up. And if y'all noticed, I am using a smaller skillet because I want my cornbread to be thick today. I don't want it to be thin. And I'm going to give our potatoes another stir here. And that's something you do have to do once you put your potatoes in there and your water and your broth, if you use broth, is you do need to go back and stir it fairly occasionally. And we want to let these potatoes cook until they get just fork tender. All right, let's go ahead and mix up our cornbread here. And of course, this is one of my grandma's cornbread recipes as well, except for the salt. And I do that on my own. That's just something I always have added into my cornbread. That is smelling good with that buttermilk. And you can use just regular sweet milk. You can use whole milk, 2%. Probably wouldn't suggest using almond milk or anything like that because I think that would probably mess up the taste of your cornbread. But you can use just plain milk if that's what you want to use, or if that's all you got. And you can actually make buttermilk out of regular milk. I think it's a, don't hold me to this because I'd have to go back and look because it's been a long time since I've done it. But I think it's like it's either a teaspoon or a tablespoon of lemon juice or vinegar to a cup of white milk. I'll try to look that up and see what I can find on exactly what that recipe is for making your own buttermilk. But so right now we got this going. We got our pan in the oven getting hot. We got our potato soups cooking. So we're good for right now. And it'll be just a few minutes. We'll be ready to put this cornbread in. All right, y'all. So we've got our cornbread, our skillets heated up in the oven. So we're just going to take and put our cornmeal mix into the skillet. All right, looking good. Try to scrape out and get every bit of it in there. And remember that this skillet is hot, just come out of the oven, so keep your pot holder on it so that you don't burn your hand. All right, and then we're just going to mash it out a little bit, kind of smooth it just a touch. All right, and that should do it. And then we're going to go back in the oven with it. Give it a little bounce there, don't hurt any. All right, we're in the oven. And I think our potato soup is getting really close to being done. Or at least going to the next step. And now, y'all, I did go ahead and about halfway through the potatoes cooking, I did go ahead and put some salt, pepper, and just a little bit of garlic powder in it. So, but it's thickening up really nice. I've got to check the potato and see if they're done. And then if they're done, we're getting really close to having this completed. So I checked the potatoes and they are done and very soft. So now the last thing that we're going to do is I've got 2 cups of regular milk here, and we're just going to slowly pour that in while stirring. Don't want to just dump it all in there at one time. We want to just slowly pour it in while we're stirring it. Man, this is smelling so good. Just about got it all in there. That's turning it a creamy white yellow color, which is exactly what we want. All right. And we got it all in there. Now we're just going to let that come back up to a real light boil. And we've just got it sitting on a simmer right now. So we're just going to let that simmer and then we'll taste it and see if it needs any more salt or pepper or anything in it. And so we're waiting on cornbread now. Soup is done. And you can see we got a nice thick pot of potato soup. And I've got me some out there and got it in the bowl cooling down a little bit. I'll move the camera back just a little bit. Got us a beautiful pan of cornbread there. And so we need a knife to cut us a piece of cornbread with. So let's cut into that and see how it looks. It sure does smell good, I can tell you that for sure. Alright, so we're going to cut us a piece out of there. Now, y'all, if you want my cornbread recipe, if you didn't catch it in here, there's a video on it. Look at that steam coming up off of that. Don't that look good? So what we're going to do now is we're going to take our bowl that I took out and set over to the side, and we're going to put us just a little bit of that cornbread in there. And I usually always put too much cornbread in mine because I don't like it to soak up all the juices. So I'm going to start off with just a small piece of it. And we're going to break that up in there and see where we're at. And now you need to, taste it and see if you need any more salt and pepper in it. Audrey says it needed more salt and pepper. I'm probably going to be happy with it the way that it is, but you just never can tell. But once you taste it, you can put more salt and pepper in it if you need to. But we're getting that all mixed in there. And I believe we are just about ready to get a taste of it. Get that cornbread all mixed around. So we got it ready, and let's give it a taste and see how it tastes. It's still steaming, so I'm gonna blow on it a little bit. All right, here we go. Mm. Y'all, that is so good. Brings back memories of my grandma making potato soup, my mom making potato soup. We still make potato soup too, but just don't usually use this exact recipe. But I'm telling you, you want something that'll stick to your ribs, that will stick to your ribs. So y'all make it for your family. Share this video with your friends. They're going to love you for it. And y'all remember, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. And we'll see you the next time. Y'all have a great one.